German debate has for too long treated egg donation as a marginal issue. It is not. 1 in 6 women in Germany experiences infertility at some point in their lives. The number of donor-conceived persons growing up in Germany is substantial. There's an estimated 50,000 families in Germany that have an egg donor conceived child. So these are colleagues, neighbors, friends. And as long as the Embryo Protection Act remains unchanged, Germany is effectively forcing couples into a very difficult choice, which is travel abroad without any support, without any guidance, navigate this legal gray area, or give up on having a child. And that is not a sustainable position. When thinking about why have I been working on this topic for so long? Why do I care about it? Well, first of all, I'm German myself, and I distinctly remember when I first found out about the prohibition in Germany. I found it very puzzling that there was almost no scientific research on it, no evidence base to the prohibition, and that there were women quietly packing their bags, flying to Spain, taking the car to Prague, and no one knew about it, no one spoke about it, and that gap of research in itself felt like an injustice. And I'm thinking of a 29-year-old woman, Turner syndrome, that I spoke to, who told me growing up in Germany, she felt because of the ban that she did not deserve to become a mother. And for years she saved money for treatment. It actually didn't work the first time around for her, so she had to start again. And I remember her saying, how do I tell my child that the means by which she was conceived are illegal in her own country? That effectively Germany didn't want her to exist. And that combination of financial, emotional challenges, the isolation, the stigma, they're not accidental, they're produced by the German legal framework that prohibits egg donation. And I've always been struck by how much care goes into these journeys. Women and couples traveling by themselves without guidance to Spain, the Czech Republic, Portugal, Denmark, relying on information from the clinic websites, translating sometimes the medical results from reports given by the clinic. And there's something deeply unsettling about how these intended parents are left to fend on their own. And that's why, to come to the next point, I do think it's very important, and it is also very urgent, that Germany finally revises this prohibition. All right, now when we think about comparing egg donation and surrogacy, they do share some ethical terrain. Questions about compensation, relationships, and the rights of the conceived children. But they are not the same practice, and it's important not to collapse that distinction. Egg donation involves a medical procedure and the contribution of genetic material. It's medically complete when eggs are retrieved. Surrogacy involves a woman's body over 9 months of pregnancy, with all the risks, with all the physical risks and the emotional complexity of giving birth, of doing the labor, and of the experience of carrying a child. That gestational relationship is fundamentally different. Many feminist scholars, many ethicists draw this distinction carefully, and I think they are right to do so. In the German debate, however, what I find problematic when talking about egg donation and surrogacy is that the two are often rhetorically bundled together as the same, and that comes across as an attempt for a political shortcut. And that, I think, is very problematic. That must be avoided. They should each be discussed and regulated on their own as distinct topics. When we talk about risks and exploitation in the context of egg donation, I think the first thing to say is that these risks should not be minimized. Ovarian stimulation and egg retrieval are invasive procedures, and any responsible system has to place the donor welfare at its center. The exploitation argument, however, needs to be taken seriously but also examined carefully, because the question is, under what conditions does compensation become coercion? And the answer is when women have no meaningful alternatives, when information is unclear, when procedures are rushed, when safeguards, medical safeguards, are absent. And what is striking about the current German situation is actually that it has precisely these conditions. Women who want to donate cannot do so within a regulated, medically monitored framework at home. Recipients, too, they travel to countries with widely varying standards of practice and regulations, and they must make their decisions within a context of uncertainty. I often find that those who are concerned about exploitation should be among the strongest advocates for clear, enforceable regulation in Germany, rather than maintaining the prohibition that produces the very risks that they are worried about. And sometimes I find it striking that many of the voices most concerned with protecting egg donors are not actually engaging with donors themselves or with their lived experience. I would also avoid the simplistic language of market versus no market. The more meaningful question is perhaps, what kind of regulatory framework makes egg donation genuinely voluntary and genuinely fair? And here I would point to elements such as mandatory counseling, strict medical oversight, very important is central registry, insurance against health risks for donors, and compensation that recognizes not only expenses but also time and burden, what is oftentimes overlooked. And I have a colleague who did a study on this, and I have myself spoken to egg donors that experienced that when they donated, they incurred so many expenses that actually the compensation did not even cover. So not only did they donate their eggs, something very time intensive, but they also lost money in the process, and that is not an ideal regulation. And so I find that it's very important that when we talk about compensation, that it must very fairly compensate, as the word suggests, those expenses that were actually incurred, and also compensates, as I said, for the time, the emotional and physical burden. When we talk about how to regulate egg donation in Germany, well, several things matter here. First of all, identity release donation. Donor-conceived adults must have the right to know their genetic origins. Germany already has recognized this principle for sperm donation, and it should apply here too. Anonymity should not be the default. That's very important. Second, clear limits on the number of donation cycles per donor, and also mandatory psychological counseling. Not as a barrier, also as a barrier, but also as guidance for donors in helping them think about the magnitude of this decision for both their own lives and the person that is potentially conceived through that decision. Third, transparent, regulated compensation should be part of it. Sufficient here to acknowledge the procedure and the burden to the donor, but not so high as to give financial motive and incentive, as is the case in the US, for example. Fourth, a national registry of donors and donor-conceived children should be instituted and clearly document everything. Critically, what I would like to add is that affected groups of people must be involved in shaping this framework. Intended parents, donor-conceived adults, counselors, and donors themselves, ideally. And not only legal and medical experts, ethicists that are speaking on behalf of these groups in Germany, which has historically been the case. It is a policy failure, in my view. Now, is Germany ready for this change? I would say yes. The government's expert commission already said yes in 2024, said yes to the legalization of egg donation. The Leopoldina said yes in 2019. Families have been living this reality for decades, for too long. And what is missing at this point is not evidence, it really is political will.